Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This, in this lovely Jane Austen mug, is Radiant Hibiscus, a Marie Curie tea. Yes, a little bit of dark humor, I believe, there, but I was in the mood for hibiscus. That's the reason I chose it. And of course, you know the reason I chose this mug is because I'm going to do my TBR video for Jane Austen July. So let's get started. Let us clear our throat before we make videos. Anyway, but it has this famous quote about novels, and it's always kind of funny because, well, this is a really good quote. The person, be it gentleman or lady, who has not pleasure or in a good novel must be intolerably stupid. I can't even read this. But this is not from any of the books that we're using in this TBR, but that's okay because it's still a pretty great quote. In those days, reading novels wasn't always looked upon well, depending on who you were talking to, but we're not going to get into that today. I'm wearing my silly hat today. It's supposed to be a strawberry hat, but it's a little bit in tandem with the book that I'm choosing of my main Jane Austen read this month. And so let us get started. This is a wonderful monthly event. This is the 7th time I'm participating. I can't believe it. How is it the 7th time? But I did the math, and it was 7. And the hosts are Katie, Books and Things, and Claudia from Spinster's Library, and Marissa at Blatantly Bookish. Lovely people. I will put their videos, their announcement videos down below so that you can check that out as well, and see their recommendations, which are pretty good. Really recommendable. And so this is what I'm choosing according to the prompts, and as usual, except for like the first maybe 2 or 3 Jane Austen Julys I participated in, which I pretty much read everything in my TBR. Nowadays, it is the pile of possibilities, more like leaning, or some of them are to begin reading, and I'm being completely chill about that. The main novel is the one I really want to finish, and the rest I want to read where I can and hopefully finish some in July, and then I can continue into August if need be. Yes, so this is the first of the challenges or prompts, and that is read one of Jane Austen's main 6 novels. So because the group read is going to be Emma, I said, well, I can be a joiner, and I had tried to find an annotated version of Emma on, at the libraries because I didn't want to buy it because I already have enough copies of Emma. But I couldn't find one. I thought I had put a hold on one, but it turns out to be one with a few explanations in the back. It's a nice copy, but I don't think I really need it. But, well, this is the one I have right now. We'll see which one I use. I have a couple other ones. It's not the one I collect the most of. And not that I collect a ton of Jane Austen novels each, but like Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion, I have a good amount of comparatively, not like a crazy amount. But Emma is not my top favorite of Jane Austen's, but it is for me, the OG Jane Austen, because it's the first one I read, and so obviously I do think it's good because it made me want to read more of Jane Austen. However, it isn't my top favorite, and yet I'm in the mood for it, so I'm pretty happy about that. I was actually having a conversation with a girl I know, and I didn't realize she read a big chunk of Jane Austen's novels, and her favorite one was Emma. And I said, yeah, I understand why it's people's favorites. So it's just not mine, but I'm going to enjoy it either way. I know I'm going to have fun with it because all of Jane Austen's novels are fantastic. And this one is very witty. I just, I'm in the mood for that. And, in July, it's always good to have witty. July is not my favorite month. Jane Austen July is probably one of the things that makes it livable. It's already too hot. Anyway, am I complaining with the weather? Of course I am. Okay, the second one is read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her main 6 novels. And though I already have some of this in a collection already, I decided to check out from the library. It seems like a pretty exhaustive collection, and it has not just Jane Austen's letters, but also some correspondence from people to Jane Austen or about her. Here we go. It seems like it was edited and collected by Deirdre LaFay, who was a famous Jane Austen writer, scholar, etc. It's a nice volume. I also got this from the library, like I said, because I only have one small collection of her letters. But it's a little heavy, so we'll see if I'm going to keep going with this. I don't need to read, in my opinion, I don't need to read the entire collection if I don't feel like it, but I'm going to give it a go. I personally, even though I enjoy all of Jane Austen's main 6 novels, and I also like Lady Susan, it's a mood, but I do like it. A lot of her other non, the other works of hers, some of them are unfinished, etc. I don't like them as much. I think it's partially the frustration of her not finishing things, and her juvenilia can be fun, but not always my cup of tea, and that's okay. But her letters are pretty great, so I definitely want to read those. Okay, so number 3 is read a nonfiction work about Jane Austen or her time. So basically nonfiction, Jane Austen centric. And I had this book that I purchased not too long ago and realized, why haven't I read it yet? And now I know why, because now I can read it in July. And this is Janet Todd's Living with Jane Austen. So I think it's kind of a memoir and also about Jane Austen, so pretty cool. And it's not a very big book either, so I could probably, I don't want to say knock it out because I hate feeling like I just need to knock out books, but I could spend time with it and probably complete it in July. And that is that's cool. Now I got another library book. I don't know why I'm so library heavy this time, especially because this is the year I'm supposed to be reading more of my own books, but c'est la vie. This is a book that came out, and again, if I buy every book that's Jane Austen related, I will be completely broke. So I can't buy every single one. This one I found was in the library, so I checked it out, and I started it, but I didn't get very far yet, and I said, well, I can wait till July, and so that is, and it's a pretty book. Jane Austen's Garden, a botanical tour of the classic novels. Ta-da! By Molly Williams and illustrated by Jessica Rue. I think it's Rue. The X. I will rue the day that I mispronounced that name. Yeah, and it's really pretty. It gets into times of the year and different types of, see this? Different types of, oh, it smells so good. Trees and plants and flowers, and even, what is on my hand? Even the end pages, papers, and end things are very pretty. And oh yes, the illustrations are quite lovely. So this is definitely something to spend time with. See, talking about Emma here, and which is good timing. So yeah, those are the 2 that I would like to get to. And then we have number 4. Read a retelling of a Jane Austen book or a work of historical fiction set in Jane Austen's time. Now this is a book that I've selected because I'm very much in the mood for it, and they're supposedly, well, they've already cast, and I believe, I don't know when they're going to start filming this adaptation of this book that I'm quite looking forward to. So I don't know if it will have already come out before next Jane Austen July, but I thought maybe if I finish it before it comes out, then I'll have it fresh in my mind again, because I read this book 5 years. Yes, I read it during the early days of the pandemic. In fact, I remember it coming in as one of my first deliveries during that time, and I loved it, and it really helped me get through those early days. But I also don't want to associate it just with those early days. So, I know that sounds weird, but there's a lot of things I'm trying to just take out of that time period. And I think Emma I read during that time too, so it's probably good to be moving these things out of that and putting them into newer memories. Maybe. So this is one of my very favorite, what do they call it? Retelling, I guess. Inspired by Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, but taking it in a slightly different direction. And that is Janice Hadlow's The Other Bennet Sister. Look at this thing. It is huge, but I don't remember feeling challenged about that when it came out. So I am not only looking forward to reading it again, this time knowing what's going to happen, but just enjoying the ride. It's beautifully written, but also I don't plan to finish this in July. I plan to just keep reading this in the months to come after that. So it'll just be one I have going, and I just love this book so much. So I just want to keep holding on to it, even though it's a little bit heavy to hold up. I just love it. I just love this book. It is about Mary Bennet. who is smack in the middle of the Bennet sisters in Pride and Prejudice. She's the one everybody thinks of as the nerd. Um, and the one who is just socially inept, and let's give her another chance. And this is so well done in such a way that's pretty kind to most of the other characters, not every character, but in a way that makes you understand. Obviously Jane Austen didn't write this book, but it could make you understand where Mary was coming from and her place in the family, and her trying to find a way after the events of Pride and Prejudice. I just thought it's fantastic. If you haven't read this book and you're thinking, what can I pick for this category for Jane Austen July, I would really recommend this one, even though it's not related to Emma, which I know is the big feature, but come on. Pride and Prejudice is always a good idea too. Anything related to Pride and Prejudice. Can you say that 10 times fast? All right, so next is read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen, i.e. published between 1775 and 1817. Now, I'm sure they'll be pretty forgiving if you went a couple of years here and there before and after, but still it's better to try to find someone who was writing around the time of her time. This book is a book that I am not sure I'm going to read. This has been in all of the Jane Austen July, every single year, this has been my greatest challenge. Sometimes I have lived up to this challenge, but it always has been the hardest one. And that is why I read Jane Austen's bookshelf a few, recently, because it gets into, well, mostly the women writers of Jane Austen's time. So I wanted it to get me back into the mood to read contemporary books. And I could have picked a male writer too. I have no problem having done that, but I really did want to focus, if possible, on a female writer. And I just can't figure out which one I'm in the mood for. So this is the one I pick for now. It might change. This is the most fluid of all my choices. So I'm not, like I said, don't hold me down to this one, but I have it, so maybe I will. And this is Fanny Burney's Camilla. Ta-da! Camilla. It is a name that we hear a lot more nowadays, because the Queen Consort of England is Britain, whatever, is Camilla, isn't she? Camilla Parker Bowles. No, Margaret Parker. Doesn't matter what her name is now because she's the Queen. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this book, obviously. But I only read one book by Fanny Burney so far, and she is definitely not just a contemporary of Jane Austen's, but one that Jane Austen definitely read. One that she, one of the books, I forget which one. Oh no, is it this one? I forget now. One of the books were a subscription thing where you pay and that your name is put in the early part of the book, and Jane Austen's name was in there. It's like one of the first times her name was in print, and it was related to Fanny Burney or Frances Burney, or she had another name when she got married, but another fascinating person. I don't know if I'm gonna like this book at all, but it's kind of a pretty book. Anyway, it's in this world's classics, which I've enjoyed a lot of trollops from. Maybe it'll be similar, maybe not. We shall see. Stay tuned. I was going to do a Radcliffe Mysteries of Udolpho, but who knows, right? Who knows? The next two prompts are not reading related, so I don't get too far into it really. But I might do it anyway. I don't have definite ideas for one of them, but number 6 is to I did read. I did the. Yeah, I'm still looking at paper because I'm very analog. Number 6 is to write. Well, that too. Watch a direct screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book, and of course, the adaptation of Emma from 2020 would be apt because I haven't seen it yet. And this might be a good time to do so. Is it 2020 or 2019? Might be 2019. I don't know why I'm thinking 2020 again. But whatever year it came out, that might be a good idea. Part of me wants to do the whole, 1995 was 30 years ago. So maybe I'll just watch the Pride and Prejudice again. Or Persuasion. Or Sense and Sensibility of that year. I'm going to let the mood take me in July for these adaptations. Also watch a modern screen adaptation or retelling of a Jane Austen book. I haven't come up with an idea for this. I mean, maybe Clueless again. I haven't watched Clueless in a while. And I also think that might be coming on 30 years too. So that might be a good idea. Um, and appropriate. And I watched it a couple of years ago, but now it's been a couple of years, so maybe it is time. And I do like it. It's fun, and it is definitely a possibility. So as you can see, I'm not tying myself down too tight to too many things because I am kind of holding myself to the part where I like to be involved in these things, but I also like to balance it with my need to be a mood reader. So no no tight strings, just having fun. If I suddenly get an urge to read Persuasion again, I might read Persuasion again. Who knows? But I will add a little Catherine related challenge. This is not anything to do with you guys, but if you want to do something similar, I am a cat person. You may be a dog person. Um, I am going to do what I've been doing the past years. I think probably not the first year because I didn't have her yet, but for most of the years since, I have a cat named Jane Austen. I wonder where I got that name from. She is not easy to photograph because she doesn't like to sit still, and so that makes it an extra challenge. But I like to do Jane Austen July on Instagram, and maybe a couple of pictures here I will share in posts. I think they call it now. They don't call it community anymore. But basically, it's just some kind of bookish posts or something related to my cat Jane Austen, because why not? And Freddie, my cat Freddie Mercury, who is next to me right now, taking a nap on one of my books, because that's what he does. He doesn't always want to be in the video, but he has to be right here, and that's okay. He might just take on a little, he likes a little bit of attention because he's got the name of a very eyes on me type of person, right, Freddie? Yeah, you can't see him. Anyway, so that is all for now. I mean, there might be other things I do that is related to Jane Austen. There's I still am part of the Jane Austen Society of North America, I think it is called, JASNA, and I get the little periodicals. I got one this week. I might read something like that during July. I'm definitely planning very soon to go to the Morgan Library, which is in New York, and not impossible for me to get to. It's just getting the energy to do anything these days. But it's there's a special showing of Jane Austen related items because of her 250th birthday this year. She was born in December of 1775. Yes. So there's a focus there. And I haven't been to the Morgan Library, inside the Morgan Library, since, if I remember correctly, 2018. They also do a very decent looking afternoon tea, so I would love to try that. But even if I could just see the Jane Austen things, because I love that. A lot of Jane Austen related tourism and museum things are in England, which rightly rightly so. Uh, rightly so, because she lived in England, and so of course you're going to go to Bath and see Jane Austen centers there. You're going to go to Chawton in Hampshire and see where she wrote, where she lived. Even London, there's some great spots. She's never stepped foot in the United States, although I'm sure. I'm gonna say, had she had the opportunity, she probably still would have gone. But anyway, some of her brothers were travelers, so maybe they had more of an opportunity. But nevertheless, her things don't always make it over here. Although the New York Public Library does have a couple of her things, which I have seen. So since I don't have, that I know of, any opportunity anytime soon to go back to England or anywhere else much out of very far right now, I can't really do much there. I can watch things, so I might do that. Anyway, I am rambling now, but that's what I do. I ramble and I talk about Jane Austen. I hope to make more videos in July that are Jane Austen related, because I have some thoughts. I had thoughts from last year and I didn't get very far, so we'll see. Some name related things, some corny Catherine things. We shall see, but if not, that's okay too. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed. Please let me know if you are doing Jane Austen July yourself, if you have any ideas of what you want to read, if you have any thoughts about the books that I've selected, if you've read, especially if you've read Camilla, if you have any thoughts on that, I would really like to know if it's worth giving it a shot. And that is all. This is Catherine from Taking Tea with Catherine. Yeah, this is not always very easy to wield and show you Jane Austen, but that's okay. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day. Goodbye.